Hi everyone, I have Jennifer here today, and we're just going to do a quick template review with one of her templates that she is wanting to launch. And we're going to go through, offer some feedback on the template, any tips where we can maybe improve sections or things that I think she's doing really great. And any questions that she might have for me, we'll just walk through this template and do a little bit of Q&A back and forth feedback and see where we go from here. So Jennifer, if you'd like to introduce your template and provide a little bit of background on why you created this template and who it's intended for, that would be great.
For sure. Thanks, Tasia. I'm super stoked to be here and to review one of these templates that I have coming down my pipeline right now. Just to give you a bit of background on myself, I have become really interested in the future of work and workplace harmony and how to create better working relationships. And so I started my business, Shared Shift, actually creating paper training manuals for small businesses. And so as I gained momentum with that, people started asking me how to make this paper version digital. And so I thought I was going to have to make an app, and I went down the long road of teaching myself how to code. And then I found Notion, which is just such an inspiring tool and makes this whole thing a lot easier. And so I have been working on my first series of Notion templates to help people who work kind of in the gig economy. So that's people who have side hustles or trying to make their dreams a reality. Basically, any work that you do intermittently and trying to make it easier for you to jump in and out of. And so I have this dashboard for homeschoolers. It was actually intended for my sister who homeschools her kids. So using the information and hearing her kind of challenges that come with homeschooling a bunch of kids at different ages, like, they're not all in the same grade. So you're kind of managing a lot of different lessons and lesson plans and tracking different progress. So that is who this is intended for, but I thought I'd try to, release it to the public and see if there's much bite on it. So yeah, it'd be good to get your eyes on it before it's more public.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that it's created for a single individual person, like a very, very specific use case, because if there's one person out there that needs this exact type of dashboard, there's probably going to be at least 100 or 1,000 others out there as well. So cool. I think that's really cool. And I think with a lot of template building, I think it's really beneficial to start with a very specific, client persona and then build out from there. So there are a lot of Notion templates out there that are very general for a lot of different people. And there are a lot of template creators that have been really successful with that route. But I think now that Notion is becoming more widely used and the user base has been growing exponentially over the past year, I think having these template creators coming in that are building more specific and unique templates is really cool. And I think that's where the Notion template market is going to really explode over the next year. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive in, and let's have you give me a general tour. Let's pretend I am a new user that might be interested in using this dashboard, and you can give me a little tour of some of the different features. If I have questions or comments, is it okay if I just jump in with them, or do you want me to wait until the end?
Okay. Yeah, no, jump in at any time. Sometimes I have a hard time staying more on the surface and I'll zone in. So I'll try to keep it as surface at the beginning as possible, and we can unravel the layers as we go. That's probably
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that this dashboard isn't to replace any kind of curriculum. What it's for, it's meant to contextualize the curriculum you're following by helping you track your progress with each student. And so the first thing I took your advice, and I have been putting at first I had a blueprint. And so now I'm going to put the video tour right in the dashboard here. I don't have one recorded for this yet, but it will be embedded, recorded with Descript, of course. Thank you again for that one.
Yes.
I didn't know about that, but I'm just, took those 2 tidbits to heart and implementing them.
And for anyone who's not familiar, Loom is a really great video screen recording software that you can use. It has a little head bubble where you can record with your webcam and your screen. And Descript is a tool that you can upload a video into Descript and it automatically will create a transcript of the video, but you have the ability to go in and edit any pauses or ahs and ums, filler words using Descript to automatically edit all of those out of your Loom video so that you can save a little bit of time on the playtime and it cleans up your video a little bit. So those 2 tools together for template tours or any type of tutorial, if you're doing a screen share tutorial, those are like the perfect pairing. So,
yeah,
okay.
It's awesome. Makes video editing a breeze. And so where the template, I guess, really starts is this first part with a guiding vision. So I did originally have this block as a synced block so that it would show up on all of the student pages and teacher pages and, be sprinkled everywhere. But I did run into that problem as I started giving this out to people that you can't have synced blocks and synced navigation in a template. So I learned that lesson. So for now, this is just a static block, but I think it's really important to have some kind of guiding vision. This will always be the first page that you see when you open up this dashboard. So at least it'll be the first reminder.
Yeah, I love that guiding vision. I'm going to jump in really quick. I know with synced blocks, having a synced block that is shared within a template gets really messy really quick. So something that might be cool to include in your template is a little like pro tip that you can say, hey, pro tip, create this or add this block into a synced block so you can embed it throughout all of your student dashboards and everybody has this guiding vision that's always up to date and everyone's always seeing the same thing. So it's a tip for the more intermediate to advanced Notion users when they download your template. That's one way that they can further customize it to add in that extra little sparkle that you wanted to give them, but some things with template sharing gets a little bit messy. So that would be a cool little thing that you can add in as a bonus for them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I kind of like having these instruction toggles. So yeah, maybe there could be an instruction toggle up above that explains that exact thing. So like I was saying I want this page to be the first page you see. So it's really an overview of your workspace in terms of who the teacher is, who the students are that teacher is instructing. And down here, we have an overview of the lessons that are on deck for today, next, and later, and then as well as actions that are on deck for today, next, and later. And my data basements, and I changed this to a credits block. I don't know, I just have seen how other people do it, and this is kind of making sense for me right now because I am using the Unsplash cover images in a lot of my promotion just because I don't have a lot of graphic design skills and I wanted to give credit to those people. So I'm just kind of making it a credit section.
I like that.
At the bottom so that, I have, I can use these things that are free and available, but have a spot to be giving credit. So it's a little bit less guilt-free.
Yeah, I love that.
So really, as a new user, the first thing you're going to do as a teacher is go into your teacher page and upload all of, you're going to go into Reflect and check out the grades. So these are the grades that my sister right now has on her horizon, who I was originally intending this for. And you need to kind of upload the lessons for each grade that you're teaching. I think kindergarten and grade 3 are my example grades right now.
Very cool.
Yeah, let's maybe go into grade 3 because kindergarten's a little bit more vague, obviously,
Mhm.
a little bit more general. So the first place, I'll open it as a page. That's always easier to view everything. The first thing you're going to see is the students. So the students in this grade, this board view is easy to kind of shuffle kids around. I think I have a few views here, or gallery, again, the kids with a little underline of the grade that they're in. So you just always kind of, I did this because I want you to have a visual of who you're planning this grade for, maybe.
Yeah.
And in the lessons toggle is where you're going to start uploading the lessons. And again, because this isn't totally replacing your curriculum, it's just about uploading the lesson titles, lesson names, like however you want to keep track of them, as well as a little checklist of what a student needs to do to get through the lesson in a really vague way, so that we'll get to why in a second, actually. But I like this little checklist. So, well, basically so that the student, when they see the lesson on their dashboard, you know, it gives them a little bit more, what's the word? Makes them a little bit more empowered in their process, because the teacher isn't telling them exactly, okay, do this now, do this now. They get to see like the 4 things that they need to do. Yeah, I think that would make them feel a little bit more empowered.
Yeah.
And so you add the title, a really vague checklist, can be really general, and then any resources. So if they're, you know, in my sister's case, she doesn't have resources for every lesson, but sometimes there's a video associated with online or some kind of handout, and you can just add that here so that it's really accessible when you're following along the checklist. The student can grab it from within here. And over time, I have added this lesson reflection so that as the student is done each lesson, and they'll see it in their dashboard, they can add maybe just a little bit of a note of what they liked and didn't like about the lesson, so that as other kids coming up need to redo these lessons, you kind of have some feedback of what worked and what didn't from previous kids. And then that also relates to this notes toggle. There's a little button so that as you're doing this lesson and have it open in the student dashboard, there's an area for the teacher to make a note about what worked and what didn't.
So something that I actually want to share with you really quick, if you jump into that notes toggle, or this might be better to do if you have this already set up as a template page or template button for when you're creating new lessons. But that new note toggle, if you,
I think I do. Can I just, do you want me to open it?
Yep, go wherever you need to go.
Sorry, I have our video.
If you, under the new,
new.
drop down.
Here we go.
Cool. So on the ones that are already existing, it might not make sense to go back and edit every single one. But if you open up the notes toggle and then you go in the settings for the template button.
Settings for the oh, yeah.
So where it says add new note, click on the settings, and then how it says type at now, you can actually type at now in the template button itself. And then when you create a new one, it'll automatically apply that stamp for
without them having to do it.
Without them having to do it now. So,
oh my gosh, so cool.
So if you click add new note as a sample one.
Oh.
Okay, wait, let's go back. Yeah, back into the settings.
Oh, I put
highlight all of that. Because if you're wanting the date to be the actual date, go ahead and
and then when duplicated?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if that worked.
Perfect.
So smart.
So
thank you.
Anytime they go and create one, then it's going to automatically put in the timestamp when they use that template button now.
Perfect. Awesome. Just spinning it up as we go.
Cool little Notion tips and tricks.
And so this is the obstacle to this template, really, and kind of to my templates in general, is that there's an initial work, like the initial work to get the bulk of the information into the template can seem maybe overwhelming or like a lot of work, but I really do think that once it's in here, it'll make it easy. Okay, so we'll keep going. So say grade 3, these are all the grade 3 lessons kind of under some subjects. And then again, all the resources that you've uploaded into those lessons will appear here in a really nice overview. And then I have the students also fill out grade reflections at the end of the year. So as the teacher, say you have to repeat grade 3 with a younger student, again, you have some feedback from the previous kids who have gone through this to make some adjustments on how you teach it or something like that. And I am going to delete this because this is my old navigation. I know that's not going to work. And so I'm going to go back to the main page. I don't know how many. I have to figure out maybe the navigation a bit better now.
Yeah. So one thing that I actually do throughout my personal Notion workspace and what I'm starting to integrate into some of the templates that I've been creating is like a universal menu bar. And that's another one where what I would do is create the menu bar. And if it's a dashboard or a template that is meant to be fairly static as far as the navigation goes, then you can just copy and paste it into each page. What I do with my personal space is I have a menu bar synced block. And if that's something that you think might be more useful for the page or for your dashboard, is that's something where you can do a quick tip or instruction for here's the main menu navigation bar. This is how to put it in a synced block and add that synced block to the rest of your workspace to make navigation a little bit easier.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so that quick tip thing is gonna, maybe be necessary. Okay, so grade 3, all the lessons are inputted. You might do that for another grade. And then you want to go into the plan area. Here's my planning matrix. And so I have these views set up in the order that you will use them. So this first view is just going to have all of the lessons. It's kind of easier to just only have open the grades that you. So for me, grade 3 and the kindergarten are my example ones that I have all the lessons up here for. So this is going to show you all your lessons, whether or not they're done or not. And I'll come back to this because this makes it generative, usable as you kind of reset it from year to year. So a view of all of them. And then these are the lessons that aren't scheduled. So what my sister has expressed and other homeschooling parents say, it's just really hard to know, like you have this curriculum, but it's hard to know what you're doing when and in what order. So on some kind of regular basis that works, whether it's weekly or monthly, you can come in here and just start checking the lessons that you want to start with. So that's probably the first lesson in any subject or something, and you can go through and click, what's realistic for that week or for that month kind of thing. And so you click them and it's going to go into this timeline view. And then you are going to move these into the exact date if the date matters for you in terms of what you are doing. You just click it and it'll go into the timeline, and then you can shuffle these around so that they're either all in this week and maybe the lesson 2s are the next week. And just play around with the dates, because this is something that I know homeschool parents do on paper. And so this is just a lot of pieces of paper moving around from week to week, trying to keep it all in order. So at least with this
Yeah.
template, it's in one spot. And
Yeah.
then
And
the last view is all the lessons by student. So in my instruction language, I call this bringing the lessons on deck. And so I'm someone who doesn't always, like even in my own personal task management, I don't assign tasks dates. I do the today, next, and later, just so that, you know, you bring these lessons on deck for your intention for lessons that you want to complete within the week or the month or 6 weeks or whatever, but you have some flexibility of when you complete them, so you can bring them on deck in whatever order feels good. And it's a really nice visual where you're just getting a sense of a schedule that's a little bit flexible, which is always helpful. And so this is something that the teacher can do in advance in this window, or they can leave it at the scheduled timeline and head back to the main dashboard. And so when you open it up, so at least you've planned some lessons that you have on deck, and you open it up the day of Monday morning or something, and say you didn't shuffle it, they'll all be over here. And you can do that the morning of with the kids together to be like, okay, what are you guys into? Are we feeling more English, or are we feeling more science for today? And at least you have, some flexibility for engaging the kids in their
I love that. And I love
progress.
the flexibility there of allowing the students to follow their curiosity, because that is one of the places where I think a lot of traditional schooling fails, is going too structured. And that's why a lot of people lose their interest in learning, because they're being forced to learn what society says we need to know right now, right here. But when you have a chance to actually follow your curiosity, that is what allows like your curiosity to bloom. I don't know.
No, totally.
That really
That's kind of the value
encourages
of homeschooling.
learning. Yeah. I think that's really cool. And I love how you have that set up as the today, next, later, so that it allows a little bit of that flexibility. And you do still have the date stamps in there on a week-to-week basis, like when they should be scheduled, but maybe we're not focusing so much on English today, it's science or whatever.
Yeah, so if you open it, it has the date range that you completed it within, let's say. And then I just want to go back to that plan, because as I mentioned, so at the end of the year, you know, you've done all these lessons and you kind of need to reset it for the next year. So that's where this first view comes in, because then you can reset it by just untoggling the lessons.
Okay.
And so when you want to start scheduling again, go back into unscheduled, they'll all be here again, and you start the process over.
Cool. I like that. I love that you were thinking of the future, not just what's going to be beneficial right now.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then I'll go into the student area. So this is my example student. I have been trying to experiment with a few different ways of leaving instructions and leaving examples in templates. So my idea was that I was going to just have one student, one example student, complete with a bunch of instructions, kind of these instruction toggles woven throughout. But as you create your actual student and, you know, use the template button, it's going to look more like this.
Very
so
cool.
I don't know what you think about that, like having examples and then not having. Yeah.
I love that idea. I would maybe, because right now you have example 1, example 2, if people don't know that the instructions for example student one live inside of that actual page, some people might accidentally delete it before they start using it.
Right.
So I would maybe, for example
write
student one,
something?
maybe do example student and in parentheses instructions.
Yeah, so I did write this in the orange.
Yes, but I mean in the title.
Oh,
So
okay.
instead of example student one, do example student parentheses instructions. That way at a
Okay.
glance, people know, oh, I should probably click on that entry to see the instruction, where you might have mentioned it in the toggle on the dashboard page for the instructions on how to use the page.
Mhm.
But at a quick glance, it's not obvious that example student one is the how to use the student page instructions.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
So I
The
think
quick glance is good.
yeah, quick glance, always setting up like the base template for the most simplified version possible. I don't know the best way to explain it other than totally politically incorrect way of saying it, which is the stupid test.
Yeah.
Or the before coffee test. Can you at a glance look at this before coffee and understand exactly what information you're trying to convey to your
Yeah.
so yeah,
I like
maybe
that helps.
I'm going to stick with the before coffee test. That's
Before
probably
coffee,
a better
yeah.
term. That's how you get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's how you make people mad.
Yeah. That's how you get, yeah. So the instruction page will show their grade, actions, which we'll talk about in lessons up here.
Mhm.
So again, I've just copied this over to the student. This isn't
Mhm.
a synced block, I should say. And then the actions part is I've left it a little bit vague. It
Mhm.
is not something that is absolutely necessary to have this template work for someone, but
Mhm.
it's just depending on your workflow and your kids, if it makes sense to give them little tasks or give them
Mhm.
reminders to sweep the floor at the end of the day or clear the desk before you start, or whatever kinds of
Mhm.
routine you have. So that was
Yeah.
my intention behind the actions, is not so much, again, the lessons or importing
Mhm.
more curriculum, but just reminders for how you get
Exactly.
through the day together.
Like
So
that might not make sense for a kindergartner student to
yeah,
have that homeschool actions database in there, or use it rather. I think keeping it there so as they grow
totally.
and like progress through the Notion workspace, the homeschooling curriculum, and graduate to different grades, I think that would be cool to have it in there to integrate at a future date. Whereas if you have an eighth grader, then maybe they have their own Notion workspace where they're also going in and like using Notion to manage their lessons themselves and for other things too.
Yeah, totally. Notion for everything. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of point out that the actions is optional and can be used a few different ways, whether it's the student giving themselves tasks or the teacher. And we'll come back to that on the homepage as well.
Mhm.
And then down here is where they're going to see the lessons that the teacher has put on deck for them, again, either for the week or the month,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And they'll be in one of these columns. And within each lesson, they can fill out the lesson reflection, but this is also a spot for them to see all of their lesson reflections, just because linked views of databases are so fun. And same thing with the grade reflections. This is where they're going to fill out the grade reflection. And that will show up on the teacher view. And then I have this spot for report cards in each student's page. So to fill out a report card for a student, the teacher will need to come into the student page. And again, it's a little button that they can click. And this is all very kept kind of vague, and they can just fill out however they want to address that. And then an archive for the report cards. So then the teacher can just drag and drop these report cards. Again, it's with that idea in mind to reset it for each year, drag them, drop them into the toggle, and it will be set up to just press the button and generate
create new one
report cards. And so the last piece is just kind of that actions database shows up on the homepage as well, just again as an initial place to have an overview or review, depending on how you end up using this with your kids, the more granular tasks. And that's kind of it.
Awesome. I really like it. I love that you inserted instructions all throughout the dashboard. I think it's really cool that all the images and stuff you're using throughout the dashboard, you're adding in your credits at the bottom of the page. And I did have a quick question when it comes to when I initially saw the templates that you were sharing with the PDF download and then the link to the template. Is that still how you are planning on managing them?
Yeah, no, good question. Yes.
Okay.
Just because, and my reasoning for that is because so these templates are for people who might not have Notion already. And I feel like it's a more familiar way of signing up for things on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, when you get a free ebook or sign up for someone's newsletter, I feel like it's more common to get a PDF with the instructions. So for me and this, and with the audience in mind, but yeah, how do you feel about that? Do you think it should just be because I have a Gumroad account, so it'll be through Gumroad. And then I know I've seen other people, they just give access to the Notion link right away.
Yeah, that's actually how I have mine set up, just because it was one less thing for me to need to create and add in as part of the duplication process or the template sharing process. Right now, I think I only have 2 templates that are actually paid templates. Everything else is free. So I'm like, if it's free, like I don't want to go through all these extra steps just to share a template. But I think especially since your business model was initially based around like PDF downloads or ebooks, or I forgot how you phrased it, with
just
helping
a PDF. Yeah.
But like with shared Shift, how you wanted to start exploring other ways for people to explore working solutions there. And you had mentioned like other products that you have that were already PDF type products or like worksheets or something like that. And since that's already such an integral part of your business strategy, I think for you, using the PDF makes the most sense because it's going to be a familiar medium that your existing clients and customers already know. And again, for anyone who is new to Notion, it sounds like there might be some people coming through or coming to Shared Shift that might not be familiar with Notion yet, but they're familiar with your other products. So like, oh, what's this? What's Notion? And that's where in the PDF download, if I don't remember if you include it, but like a brief explanation of what Notion is and how to sign up for an account might be beneficial for anyone who has zero idea of what Notion is.
You know what? So just about that, because I did have that as part of my setup. You know, it's a really gentle introduction and everything. And in my setup, I was like, sign up for Notion account, like go here. And I had some steps. And then Ben was like, don't do those first 3 steps. Just give them the link to your template and it'll still take them through those same prompts. So
okay, that makes sense too.
I did cut it down that way, my verbiage in there.
So maybe instead of like giving the exact steps, like step number 1 would be, if you don't already have a Notion account, here's where you can go to sign up for one. And then step 2, use this link to duplicate or
Yeah,
XYZ
okay.
of the rest of the instructions very specific to your template. So that way it's still that little gentle nudge for people who are unfamiliar with Notion to know where they need to go to sign up for an account.
Mm-hmm.
But also the people that are Notion existing users or power users,
Yeah.
we can go and we're like, oh, okay, just like skim over that
Yeah.
little one line step and move on to the next. So
Yeah.
I think that's beneficial. And I think where Ben's feedback on that makes a lot of sense, especially coming from the thought process of people, especially like with Marie and Ben and Notion Mastery, people are being guided to Notion templates because they already know what Notion is, versus for your templates, a lot of people might be being guided to Notion because they're interested in what this template is. So it's like, oh, this is a cool digital version of something else that she had already created that I really enjoyed. So let's explore this. Like, what is Notion?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to be talking a lot about, I'm going to convert a lot of people to Notion.
It's too bad Notion doesn't have the referral program anymore. In the early days, if you had a friend sign up, I think you got like a $5 credit towards your account. So that was really cool. And if you were like Marie, who referred everyone, I'm sure she got lots and lots of referrals there.
Yeah.
But it
cool.
was definitely an earlier startup strategy that they used to help spread the word and get more people to sign up for Notion. But
yeah,
now everyone knows what Notion is.
Yeah. That actually kind of leads me into a question that I wanted to get your feedback on, because I know a lot of people make templates of things that they use a lot for themselves. And so when I put this out, I'm a little bit unsure of how to price it because, like I said, I'm not actually homeschooling. I have gifted it to one other person and I'm trying to, share the love. So until I have a lot of social proof that this template is really, the gears are really greased on it, I wasn't going to give it a price. I was going to utilize the Gumroad pay what you want for a little while. And so, yeah, I didn't know if you had any ideas on when to price or how to price. And
yeah, that's where it definitely gets a little bit tricky. I'm still kind of figuring this out myself. So I'll share some of my experiences and what I think might be beneficial or worth testing out. So first things first, was it a friend or a sister that you shared it with? I don't remember.
My sister for this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for this one, because you shared it with her, once she's in and actually using it and if she's a brand new Notion user, it might take a little bit before she's really comfortable with it. But once she gets in and kind of understands what the dashboard is and how it can help, it might be beneficial to ask her what she feels that it's worth. So you're getting like direct user feedback on value. Another thing that I think is great is maybe starting with like a low mid price where, I don't know, 15 to 20 bucks, where you set that as the price, but then you do a first 10 downloads free kind of giveaway to generate some interest, get some feedback from people. And through Gumroad, the nice thing is in order to download or purchase any product, you have to supply your email address. So you have the email addresses of everyone who's downloaded, and then you can follow up with them after the fact, ask for a rating on Gumroad, ask for their feedback, ask what they would be willing to pay for a template like this. And then that could help you gauge your pricing a little bit better down the road until you get more comfortable with the level of complexity of a template. Like with this template, this is a very advanced, complex template versus one that might just be a simple checklist or like a 1 or 2 page template. This one has all the bells and whistles, so it might be worth more, but again, it's
not at the beginning.
Yeah, like it's hard to price something high at the beginning and actually get sales from it.
Yeah.
So a little bit of market research there, providing a few free copies in exchange for feedback is definitely beneficial. The other thing is definitely like for homeschoolers and homeschool teachers, it's a very like niche target
Right.
audience. So it's hard to find them. So if your sister knows other people who are homeschooling, then maybe she can get you in contact with them and you can see if they are familiar with Notion and if they'd be interested in checking out this template. And then again, getting a little bit of feedback from them. And that's something where with Gumroad, it's really easy to adjust the pricing. So you can always start with like the free or the pay what you want and kind of see how that goes. One thing that I found is a lot of people will download something for free just because it's free. I do occasionally get people who will pay or tip on one of the pay what you wants. Like the way I consider it is that it's a tip if they're giving me anything over $0.
Okay.
But out of all of my pay what you want templates, I haven't made a ton of money from them. I've had a lot more free downloads than paid downloads. So I don't think using what someone is actually paying you on the pay what you want is a good gauge of what the template is actually worth, just because a lot of people for pay what you want, like they don't know what the template is, they haven't seen it, they haven't used it, so they don't know what it's worth yet.
Yeah.
But giving it away for free and then asking for feedback from people, like, what do you think this would be worth? You could send a little like feedback survey.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's
And
a good call. I hadn't thought of asking for feedback from the people that grab it for free initially. So that's sweet.
And it's definitely something where if you are looking to provide multiple templates and kind of scale the sales over time, definitely, okay, how do I phrase this?
Yeah.
This was, so this was a concept that I actually was introduced to from Ev Chapman.
Oh,
she's
love
big on
Ev.
Twitter. She does lots of templates and stuff. Like she's a total Notion goddess. And I love the templates that she does and things that she shares. And one thing that I think is really cool that she's kind of transitioned from her earlier templates where more of the like not technical but like user, can't think of the word that I'm looking for. Sometimes I get really bad brain fog and I just can't find the word. But a lot of her earlier templates were templates that were for a specific use or like to do something in Notion, like
a lot of her content stuff.
Like a note, like her Zettelkasten or something that's like a Twitter tracker, and a lot of the like tracking type templates she offers for free. But then where the big value add comes in is she takes her knowledge and packages it up into a Notion template, and that's the higher price templates that she has. So that's something that I think is an interesting twist on that is I've heard this in many places, but it takes just as much marketing effort to market a high price product as it does a low price product. So if you don't have a huge audience and you're putting a lot of effort into marketing, it might be more beneficial to offer fewer high ticket items than a lot of low ticket items, just because it's harder to reach a lot of people. But with your business, you already have a lot of other options and you can always link to Gumroad from your other website with the other products that you have. I'm not sure if you have your other products listed through Gumroad as well.
I don't.
That's something that's worthwhile looking into. And that's where coming in with a larger volume, doing more of general marketing to like, hey, are you looking for different ways to make money online or alternatives to the traditional workplace? And having a lot of options, I think, will be really cool because you're drawing in a larger audience, but because of the individual specific things that you're offering, people will be able to then further like niche down into what they're specifically interested in. So I think that's very unique, a unique approach that you have that not a lot of other people do.
I'm so glad you're saying that. It's just so nice to be seen in that way because I was feeling really crazy that I'm like, I have this different approach and my Notion creations are coming out in a different way than what
Mhm.
I'm seeing already exists. So just thank you for
Yeah.
saying that I'm not
Yeah.
totally crazy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's something that I'm actually really excited to see is a lot more of a lot of Notion creators are Notion generalists, which I think
Yeah.
has been really
Yeah.
beneficial. But now there are starting to be a lot more generalists and not as many like niche type people.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool because you are narrowing down to a niche, which is like the alternative work option kind of. I don't
Mhm.
remember how you phrased it specifically.
I just call it workplace harmony and better working relationships. So,
Yes.
it's things that you can use
Mhm. So
alongside tradition
yeah,
right now.
and I love that, and it's definitely like its own little niche category. But within that, there are still all of these other little tinier niches, but you're able to draw in a larger, more generalized audience based on like the workplace harmony concept. And then once they get in, there are further like narrowed down niches that I think are really cool. And that's something that I'm trying to explore a little bit with
Yeah.
building a community of Notion for creatives. There are creator communities out there already for Notion where like Notion creators creating templates, but I think I need to rename mine to Notion for creative arts. So
Totally.
musicians, artists, designers, illustrators, photographers, videographers, like everyone in that world, and finding ways to have a broader community, but within that community, you can follow your specific interests. And what
Yeah.
I found, especially with the creative world, is a lot of people who are creative by nature are interested in different areas. So, like going
Mm.
with just Notion for musicians, almost like more than half the musicians that I know are also interested in art or photography or videography or like sound
Cool.
design, and having a place where everyone can come together and then find their more specific interests, follow their more specific interests, I think will be really cool. And what I see you doing with the workplace harmony is like the workplace version of that. And that's what
Yeah.
makes me really excited. I think that's such a cool and interesting use case for Notion, a cool way to build a community around that and bring more people into the Notion general community through that workplace harmony and bringing them in through these cool like individual types of templates.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah, this is my starting point, and my next
Mhm.
series, I kind of have 4 half-baked templates on the side for a little bit bigger use cases for team
Mhm.
collaboration, but also very niche. And
Mhm.
just hearing you speak about your creative work, I know we're a little bit we're at time, but if you had 5
Yeah.
minutes, I would love to get your eyes on the musician one,
Mhm.
or we can do it another time.
I am open for the next couple hours, so I'm totally cool jumping in now.
Cool. Let's jump in
So,
and we can just spend, 10 minutes just it's also very Canadian specific. I'm in
mhm.
Canada. So there might be parts that aren't, there's just one part that might not be relevant.
Mhm. I like that cover image. I just wanted to say that.
Sweet. Yeah, I changed it from the last
Yeah.
time.
I'm like, oh, that's different. I like it.
Yeah. Sweet. So it kind of has just, it's a lot more like, I kind of think of it as like an information library where there's 2
Mhm.
sections and each page is just meant for its own database. It's a lot more simple. So
Mhm.
this to share is an area for events where
Mhm.
they can just have a page with all the past event, like an archive of events to share with fans or super fans instead of keeping a website up to date.
Mhm.
Basically, it's a little bit of an
Notion is
alternative
so
to
much
that.
easier to keep updated.
Yeah. So to have your consistency there
Mhm.
and a media kit that they can share again with promoters and people who are looking to hire them. And
I really like
then
that media kit page.
Yeah, I mean, it's inspired by Marie's.
Mhm.
So there are some, it has just like a lot of elements that she uses, but I tried to organize it a little
Mhm.
bit differently. But every musician needs a media kit.
Absolutely.
And then this people page is just meant to record, I call it friends of, so anyone that you collaborate with or want to work with, to keep track of
Mhm.
people there with a few different views. FAQs is just something that I think is really handy to have anyone who's running their own business. Like
Mhm.
you get asked probably the same questions over and over depending on your industry or your music. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of nice to have a good answer on hand
Mhm. And
because,
that's another great thing that can be added into the for sharing page is you can
oh, that's
have
true.
FAQs and be like, hey, you have a question for
Yeah,
me? Check out my FAQs. If it's not answered there, feel free to hit me up, kind of thing.
that's a good point. I know. I don't know why I think of FAQs as more like internal, but I know it's traditionally more an external thing. So
I think
I'm
having
going,
it in both places would be beneficial.
okay.
Or if you had like the FAQs, you can have like a private version and a public version, where on the public page, you just filter it to show only the public FAQs. And then you can have like some of the more private ones that you
Uh,
don't want to share with everyone. That way you're not trying to update two separate FAQ databases.
yeah.
That's just something that I think would be really cool. And
I'm
I
still
might
trying to,
implement that.
yeah, I'm just still trying to wrap my head around permission settings with
Mhm.
databases. So I'd have to think about that one for sure. Space for contracts. So again, your blank contract or any sign, a link to where you keep signed ones.
Mhm.
And I like this idea of just sitting down beforehand and thinking about, having the things that you ask for before you sign a contract,
Mhm.
or things that you usually like to include in your rider, for example, because it can be kind of hard to remember in the moment. I feel
Mhm.
like musician things and gigs, those deals get made pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
tools is pretty simple, just in terms of keeping track of things that you want, gear that you
Mhm.
actually use, and dragging it over to things that you don't use anymore.
Mm.
The music library is meant, this is a little bit complicated. So maybe you would have an idea of a better way to do this, but my understanding, when you put music online, like on Spotify
Mhm.
or Apple Music, it's always going to tell you
Mhm.
the monthly downloads or monthly plays. And so the idea with this music library is to keep track of the lifetime plays and the lifetime downloads
Mhm.
of each song or each track on each platform you're have it on.
Yeah. I think this is a really great thing to keep track of. I will preface anything I have to say with I am a classical musician, so more of the orchestral world, which is
Okay,
totally different than like music industry. So I don't
got
have
it.
a lot of music industry experience, but I'm familiar with a lot of the concepts and ideas behind it. But
Mhm.
I don't have any like personal experience with it.
Right.
Interested in exploring some things with
Mhm.
like music production, but I'm not going to go there yet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think having someone who is in the industry and gets in and starts actually using this might be able to update it more beneficially or
Right.
more thoroughly than I could. But I think this is a good starting point, at least.
Cool.
Like just looking at the properties that you have there, I can't think of anything else that I would specifically add.
Yeah, I just didn't want to make it too complicated for like trying to record each month and stuff, because
Mhm.
I was like, I feel like that's already going to be in your Spotify dashboard or your Apple Music dashboard. Like, yeah, this will be its own
Mhm.
set of unique data. So the set list idea is something that's specific to Canada. We
Mhm.
have the SOCAN body, which is an acronym, and I don't know what it stands for, but it's something that musicians, so any venue in Canada that has live music, they have a SOCAN license, and it's a fee that they pay to this SOCAN body every year, I guess, or maybe monthly. And that, I don't really know the history behind why this body exists, but basically it's so that musicians can submit their set list to SOCAN and get paid more money than just their live one-time fee.
That's cool.
For songs that are licensed already. Because we have this whole kind of Canadian content thing. So on radio is really the place that it exists, that it's still really alive today, but it was like used across TV broadcasting and stuff. But on radio stations, if you have a radio show, you have to play something like 85% Canadian content. So it's just was a way to prevent Canada becoming like too Americanized, I guess.
Okay.
And to promote more Canadian content being circulated instead of like the, more popular American versions, basically. So
I like that. How do I subscribe to these Canadian radio stations?
Yeah, I'll send you a link to my local radio station. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not in love with a lot of American pop music.
Right.
I have very weird eclectic tastes.
Yeah, you probably like my local radio station.
But one of my favorite artists is Estero, and she's Canadian. So
sweet.
like, yeah, I'd be down for more of that in my life.
Cool. Yeah, I have some friends who are more like folk musicians. And so for them as creatives, this part of their business is really hard for them to manage. It's just not a priority when it's easily laid out. Yeah. You know what I mean? So yeah, I have a couple of friends who are using this, and I'm excited to just get their take on if this is making their life easier to get paid by SOCAN.
That's very cool.
That's what Setlist is for. And then the obvious place for social media metrics, just to track different posts and what worked and what didn't, so people get, more of a sense of what people want to hear from them on, or what platform does better for different posts, like that kind of idea, just typical business stuff. And then I call all my budget or like money databases shmoney, just to make it more fun sounding. But this is a main database for you to record revenue, basically from live shows. And then I've pulled in the music inventory database so that, if this was populated, it will show how much revenue you've made on each of those platforms, just so that, not that you edit this in here, but that you can get a glance. Oh, and then all of the money you've made from SOCAN. At a glance, you kind of get a sense of where your cheddar is coming from.
I like that. So one comment there. I think shmoney is cute and it's really fun.
Okay.
It's good for like conversational, but something I recently went through the Ship 30 for 30 cohort in January, which if you're not familiar, it's Dickie Bush and Nicholas Cole created this like digital writing community, and it's a 30-day challenge to ship 30 atomic essays in 30 days. And one of the biggest points that really stuck with me that they made, especially for the essays in particular, it was like the headline writing, like the title of your essay. And the biggest point that really stood out to me is making sure things are clear, not clever, because if you're too clever, that sometimes turns people away or it confuses them, versus when it's making things as clear as possible, makes it a lot easier for the consumer to consume. So if that's something where they want to rename it later, they totally can. But for the purposes of selling a template to the public, I think keeping things clear is definitely the way to go.
Okay, thank
But
you. I think I just needed someone to tell me that. Really, I'll rename it.
But I
Cool.
mean, talk about that money and cheddar all you want. Maybe just not name it in the template.
Yeah, okay. Cool. And that, yeah, so those are all the things that I have in there. I didn't know if you thought there was any sections kind of missing
Honestly, I
in terms
can't
of
really.
business, the business
Yeah,
side of musicianhood.
I think you covered just about everything that I can think of off the top of my head. With the music library, maybe adding in some kind of like, so I know this is mostly intended for like music that is being published on different music platforms,
Yeah.
but maybe adding in a library in there somewhere for like a songwriting library, or like keeping track of songs that they're learning. Like if it's a
Oh,
musician who
cool.
does some original music, but then also covers, keeping track of both those things is obviously
Oh yeah,
I'm
that's
assuming
smart.
any covers that are being played, those are licensed by the original artist and you can't make anything off of that. So I don't know how that works with the SOCAN library. If you
Yeah.
perform covers as part of your set list, if those need to be excluded or not, but still keeping
Yeah,
track
they
of
do.
everything that you're playing, even if it's not original music.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. Yeah, you only get paid out by SOCAN from songs that are
Original.
licensed in a way that they can double check it. So yeah, that doesn't include covers, but
That makes sense. And same thing with a regular music library, or this music library or music inventory, where it's songs that are being uploaded to platforms, but to sell on platforms or stream on platforms. You might perform covers live, but you can't upload them to Apple Music or SoundCloud or something because it's not your original music,
yeah,
unless you
okay.
get a copyright license from the original musician. But it's
Yeah,
still worth keeping track of that information. And maybe
just
like I
having some
have
here.
a
Yeah,
little
no,
bit of
that's a good
differentiation where
call.
it's like music inventory is the music that you are selling online or that you are streaming online for profit in some way, shape, or form, versus maybe some music you're just playing for fun and you want to keep track of, oh, hey,
Got
I
it.
played that cover at this one show, but I don't remember what show it was because it's not on my set list because it's not an original song. So kind of
Oh, good
having
call.
somewhere to keep track of that would be really cool. Or a lot of musicians play multiple instruments. So maybe if there was a song library, you could also include a category for instrumentation. If it's like just voice and guitar, like solo, or if it's multiple instruments where it's like the full band. I personally think that would be really cool. I'm also kind of a nerd. I like keeping track of those types of things, but
Yeah,
if that's something I'm interested in, then other people might be interested in it too. And
you know
I
what?
guess
I
some of
think
those
more,
are,
yeah.
oh, sorry. Some of
I
those, I
was
guess,
just gonna say, because something else that is unique to, I don't know if in the US you guys have grants, and artists here can apply for different grants. So the way I'm kind of encouraging musicians to use this and to record data, even if it's that granular, is it'll give you really good stats for when you're applying to grants.
yes.
You know, not things that you have to like dig up from your memory, but you can come in here and, you know, they just like hearing things like that. Like I've performed 37 songs with guitar and 40 on with vocals and guitar, or you know, it just gives you really good information for the grant process. So
yes,
no, those are really good
I
things,
love that.
differentiations that I think would be useful in this section. So thank you.
And that could also be beneficial for not only grants, but I don't know if any Canadian universities do this, but some American ones do, where they will pull in an artist in residence for a semester. And it's kind of like, I think usually those are paid through grants through the university, where they bring in an artist and they sponsor that artist for a semester, where you come in and teach master classes or provide performances, or whatever. And that would be another really great use case for that.
For just having that extra information
Mhm.
to sell yourself for
Yeah.
those opportunities. Cool.
I
Awesome.
love that. Yay.
That's so helpful, Tasia. Thank
Woo.
you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see the evolution of this dashboard. I love where it's going so far. I love the little improvements that you've made, but overall, I'm really excited just to see how your Notion template business does and how it integrates into your existing business, and see the journey where you go with it.
Yeah, thanks so much. I hope it's not our last
Yes.
conversation.
Absolutely.
Workshop.
I am so down to do this more than once.
Cool.
But
Sweet.
since we are technically over time, we can go ahead and wrap up. And I just wanted to say thank you again so much for hopping on with me and working through this template deep dive and sharing some of your thought process and why you wanted to do these Notion templates and where you're building from here. I think it's really exciting.
Sweet. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm so stoked. It was really helpful.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Sweet.
Have a great day.